Hi, I'm Ali. I am the author of Ollie and His Superpowers. I just want to take a few minutes of your time to tell you where Ollie came from, the concepts behind it and what we're doing with it now. I'm a therapist. I was mainly working with adults, but I began to get children brought to me to see if I could help with behavioural issues, anger, stress, that kind of thing. When the children came to me, it was really apparent that my training was a little bit lost on them. Loads of long words, conscious, subconscious, how the mind works, how your emotions work. And children were just glazing over and they weren't getting it at all. And the reason being that they're only little and they don't actually have an emotional language. They don't understand what an emotional is. They know what they feel, but they don't know how to tell us that. They don't know how to put that into words. And we're not very good at actually speaking a language that makes sense to them about emotions. All we have is these long, complicated words. I remembered when I was training, I'd sit in the classroom and all these long, complicated words would come out, how the brain works, right? And I used to just, and I'd go home at night and I'd literally have to get on Google to see what it meant because it was over my head. And I thought, well, if it's over my head, a kid's never going to get it. So very, very quickly, it was apparent to me I needed a new language. The children that were brought to me didn't want to be there, let's be honest. Mum and Dad dragged them there and they didn't want to be there. So they'd sit in the corner of my therapy room, don't want to be here. And I would get no sense out of them. And they certainly weren't going to open up to me because they didn't have a language and I didn't have a language. So very quickly, I worked out that if I made the session not about them, that we might actually get some improvement there. So what we did was we invented this character called Ollie. And I would have Ollie in the room with me and I'd ignore the child and just talk to Ollie. Interestingly, Ollie had the same issue that the child had that had been brought for my help. And I would go out of my way to just talk to Ollie, almost ignoring the child, and I'd purposely get it wrong with any suggestions of help that I might have for Ollie and how we could overcome his behavioural issues. Out of the corner of my eye, a very interesting thing was happening. The child that doesn't want to be there was listening and getting really cross. That all the information and help I was giving Ollie was wrong and would never help him in a million years. Without fail, at some point in the session, the child will just go, "That's not going to help Ollie. What he needs is this, this and this because he's feeling this, this and this." Eureka moment. That could take months and months and months of therapy. Just by disassociation and putting it about a puppet, we got the child to engage because what the child was actually telling me was what they need and how I can help them. Brilliant breakthrough. So Ollie worked. How could we take that further? Next problem we had was, I could say to a child, "Wow, you need more emotional resilience and you need to understand empathy." Most kids can probably spell it, understand it, no. They didn't know what an emotion was and they didn't think they had any control. So how could I help them with that? If I ask a child where the brain is, if I ask them where the heart is, they'll point to their heart. If I ask them to draw a heart, most of them will do the heart shape for me. If I ask them to draw an emotion, no idea. You ask most adults to draw an emotion, no idea. There was the problem. It wasn't real, it wasn't tangible, it wasn't something they could get hold of and make sense of. So what we did with Ollie was we gave him superpowers, or rather, we gave his emotions a name. We made his emotions into superpowers. And Ollie has every superpower or emotion that everybody has. So, happiness, sadness, madness, anger, all those things, all of those emotions are all now superpowers. Why? Very simply. Because then what I could do, have a child with me that's angry, I can pull angry out of them, sit them in my hand. And angry is quite big because the child's been brought here because he's angry. And I showed the child that actually what you could do with these superpowers, because you are completely in control of them, is you can shrink them and shrink them and shrink them and shrink them so you're not so angry. Or even better, let's pull happy out. He's only little because you've been grumpy. Let's make happy bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Strangest thing happened. The kids completely got that. It was a really simplistic way of showing them that they actually do control their emotions. Fantastic, that worked. Now we can start to move on. And they were choosing the emotion they wanted to feel. Taking back control. Then we had the issue of kids that we were working with from various backgrounds, foster care, God knows what else, that trapped in the system because they have huge issues, probably from abuse of some kind in the past, and how we help kids deal with that, because it's a massive, massive problem for adults as well as kids. That's where Ollie and the concept of the conscious and subconscious comes in. Instead of having conscious and subconscious, we made the front of the brain an iPhone. Other phones exist. Get the principle though. It can record visually, it can hear, it can smell, it can taste, it can touch, and it feeds that information back here to a blooming great library. Now that library is full of boxes. Everything you've ever learned is in one of those boxes. And there are boxes with good stuff in, stuff you really love and enjoy. And we've all got those boxes with not so good stuff in, fears, phobias, or memories that are holding us back. They're a little bit darker. We also have a librarian in there, and it's his job to put everything in these boxes, but the librarian can't see what's going on. And it's a brilliant way to explain to kids why we're all different and we all feel different ways, because the only way the librarian knows what to put in what box is by the emotion that you express or experience at the point you're learning something. So if you're really, really happy, librarian's going to go, tick, happy box. If it's something that really frightens or upset you, black box. Took it one stage further. We've now got potentially these boxes where the kids have had a bad time, abuse, whatever. Every single box we put a date on. This is clever, but so simplistic. We now have a child that understands he has superpowers and emotions and can control them, and they're a lot more capable and competent than they ever were. Whatever's in that horrible box, that black box, didn't happen yesterday, last week, last year, probably happened a while back. And by making that apparent to the child, by letting them look at the date and then discussing, oh, you were 2 then, were you in nappies, could you walk? Getting them to associate with being 2 again. And then opening that box and seeing that actually what happened in that box cannot happen again because it happened to a 2-year-old version of them, however old they were. But a version of them doesn't have the capabilities and skills they have now. And it's wonderful. Kids are so much better at letting that go than we are as adults. Most adults have still got lots of black boxes and struggle to release them. So more and more we're finding ways that the Ollie concept gave the kids a language and a way to control their emotions and release stuff that they didn't need to carry into adulthood. What happened next? The Ollie books. I was asked, could I write a book? We wrote one, thanks to all of you. It went really well, and we now have Jessica Kingsley publishing us to write more Ollie books so that we can get to more children and parents, teachers, anyone and everyone that works with kids. Next stage, which is wonderful, very quickly, I couldn't cope anymore. I couldn't literally take on any more children myself, and yet the demand was there. What do? That's when we decided to start training other therapists up as Ollie coaches, so that every school, every hospital, the prison service, the police, foster care homes could all have access to a highly trained child therapist with the additional attributes of having the Ollie concept to give them that emotional language. And I'm really, really proud to say that we are actually out there now in all of these different agencies, and we are making a difference to the children's lives and the adults' lives, doing one-to-one coaching, training for parents, teachers, nurses, you name it. If you're interested in what we're doing and how it could work in your organisation, or even for you and your child, please get in contact with us. You can contact us at www.ollieandhisuperpowers.com, or you can email us at info@ollieandhisuperpowers.com. Ollie's really making a difference. Thank you for your time.